Nabnasset Grove. Now, Jeff Hall was here, as I said, and he's interested in Nabnasset Grove, so get ready, Jeff, here we go. When you read the book, you'll find out that William C. Edwards built a lot of things, buildings in West Chelmsford and Chelmsford and all over the state. This was his house. It wasn't in the book because it's just over the line in Nabnasset section of Westford. And to locate where you are, this is across the street from the Nab liquor store.
Oh, okay.
So that house is there. It's blue right now, and it doesn't look very fancy right now, but it had a lot of nice detail on it. And this was the carriage house. You see the carriage house was built, he's the guy that built the railroad station, Quessy School, the West Chelmsford Methodist Church, the Fletcher Library, and the Adams Library. I found out. I was surprised. So he had a lot of architectural style. Now we're headed into Nabnasset, so I want to get you oriented. This is the turn. This is the town line right here. This is the turn where William C. Edwards' house was that we just looked at. This is Marshall's Hall, and my friend Bill Nolan owns that piece of property, which his house is in Chelmsford and Marshall's Hall is in Westford. That was a two-story building. It was like a community function hall upstairs and a store downstairs, and later it became like one-room apartments for transients and fell into disrepair and finally burned around 1920. Now we come down. This is Nabnasset Street going up this way. I'm just going to go down here a little ways. This corner was called Brookside Corner. There are two gas stations there, a school on this corner. Well, this little house over on this corner, and I mean little, is still there, and it belonged to Moses Edwards. And Moses Edwards and his wife, I think it was Mary, had 5 children that grew up in that little tiny house. So one of those kids was William C. Edwards. So it's amazing. He grew up in this little bitty house, and he builds these massive structures all over the place. And one of his sisters married John Whidden, who was the station master at the West Chelmsford Station on School Street. Now going up Nabnasset Street, this is Moore Street here, and he purchased a Grove. Actually, the Grove already existed. Okay, notice it says G.C. Moore. Well, the Grove was this entire area here, and he bought it from a fellow who lived on Main Street right there in Westford. His house is in the book in 1874. Now, he was still just a kid when he bought this whole place. So there was a house here. I'm going to show you a picture of that next. This is the house. The kind of the groundskeeper or the manager of the Grove lived here. This was a barn and facilities needed for maintenance. You can see a swing set out here. This is Moore Street here. This is Oak Hill Road here. This is Nabnasset Road here. This is a boathouse that George C. Moore built, and it was in the 1800s. He had rowing boats. He had a whole fleet of rowing boats. He had a steamboat on the lake. And so when they had groups over, you could have a large church group, a large company picnic. They had all this equipment, and they kept it in this building. And if you notice, they had a door here. The door would lift up here to the second floor. And if the water wasn't so low, you could row your boat right through there. But here the water's low. Now, George C. Moore owned the rights to the water, so he could control the water level any way he wanted it. So when he needed water for his boats, he could raise it up. Over here we had kind of a scout camp, and there's a good picture of one of the buildings on this camp area. I think these were Girl Scouts, and that's the boathouse again. So this is kind of a similar view to the last one, but it shows the building. There was a complex of buildings for the camps. This is actually William C. Edwards here. And the reason I show this, he actually owned, Moore owned the southeast and east end of the lake. He actually owned the southwest end of the lake, and that's where I think this boathouse was. I think if you go this direction, you go toward the east end and the boathouse. So this is Edwards Boathouse. And I'm pretty sure this is a gasoline boat right now because there's no smokestack. This has the classic hull of a steamboat. So my theory is that either this was the steamboat that was on the lake, or this was an Edwards steamboat that was converted to gasoline, because Edwards is pretty far along at this age. Just to give you the scale now, George C. Moore and William C. Edwards were both titans of industry. They both lived at literally the same time. And here's how it worked. Edwards was born 3 years before George C. Moore, and he died 6 years after. So Edwards' life spanned all of George C. Moore's life, the whole thing. And the two of them had to have done a lot of business together, and they had to have known each other real well. The name of the boat, Edna Louise, when I was looking at the photo, it's really grainy. I was able to pick out Louise by staring at it for half an hour, looking at it from different angles. I picked out Louise, and then there was 4 letters in front of it. I had no clue. I could not figure it out. Then I was looking through Ancestry.com. Oh my God, he had a granddaughter by the name of Edna Louise. She was born in 1900. There we go. That's the Edna Louise. This is a summer theater in 1915. He built 2 barns. One was 140 feet long, and the other one was closer to 100. These were massive barns. I mean, they were called some of the biggest in the whole area. And this one right here, the summer theater, only the upstairs was used for the theater. They had a stage, and they could seat, in a pinch, they could seat 1,000 people. I don't think the fire regulations today would allow 1,000 people in there. But on the downstairs, they had bowling, billiards, a dance hall, and a recreation center. So this was quite a facility, and it went along with the Grove because they had baseball fields, they had the waterfront, they had the beach, they had everything, hiking trails. Now this right here, if you look over here, there's that big barn that we were just looking at, the theater. George C. Moore got rid of the house that I showed you in the first slide, and he built another house for his family or the caretaker, whoever they needed at the time. And this was called the Nabnasset Inn in 1935. So there was actually a restaurant and an inn there. And it's actually owned by a mutual friend of Jeff and mine by the name of Rich McLaughlin. He lives there now. So here we go in 1938. The theater was gone. So this is the large barn. It's called the Nabnasset Country Club. Of course, today it's called the Nabnasset Lake Country Club. But here it is, being used by the golf club. This shows you the reason I'm showing this, not to make an eye chart, but this land over here was William C. Edwards over here. So this was his waterfront where I showed you the boat. This strip of land over here is kind of pie-shaped. This also was always Edwards' land. It was actually Moses Edwards. I told you about his little house. This is now Charles Edwards' land, his son, and William C. Edwards' brother. And guess what it's called today? It's Edwards Beach. And it's a town facility. It's one of the Westford beach facilities, and they have building, they have events, movies, all kinds of stuff, picnic tables. So George C. Moore owned this property here. George C. Moore owned all this property here. He didn't always own it. A lot of the land down here he bought in 1898, 1899, 1900. I couldn't believe it. It's like he was playing Monopoly. Every piece of land that he didn't own, between he and William C. Edwards, they owned everything you see here, except I think the Fletcher Quarry owned this section over here, and they had a recreation facility over there. So he was obsessive in accumulating wealth, property, great mills. I forgot to tell you too, on that first chart, he owned half of Brookside Mill at the time that chart was made. Oh, the other thing on here, this shows the location of the big barns. This is the clubhouse. This is the small barn, I should say, and this is the little theater because this is different time frame. This is 1940. This is a stable, and this is a paddock, and it says private property at this point. But when this was used as the Grove, They had horses here, and the paddock stable. This is that house that became an inn that I showed you about. Okay, here we go. This is 1948. Now, the club found that it was too expensive. Their building was too expensive. So Rich helped me track down where the barn went. They sold it. A farmer bought it down on Marshall Street in Chelmsford, East Chelmsford. This is it. This is the roof of the big barn. You see the same 3 vents right here. The only difference is the first floor he built out of cement blocks. So he saved the upper floor with the roof. This is what it looks like outside. This is the cement block first floor, and this is the old building that you saw in those pictures, as it looks today. Okay, this is the Nabnasset Lake Country Club. They moved to the 2-vent building, which is a smaller barn, which is right next to. This is Nabnasset, the junction of Nabnasset and Oak Hill. This building burned in 1977, so they may still be using that if it hadn't burned. This is what the site looks like today. This is where the big barn was, and now they have a modern building. This is the foundation of the smaller barn right here. This was where the stable was. This is where that house in that picture where the groundskeeper was. So I forgot to tell you, the first groundskeeper he hired in 1876, his name was George Tyler. And he worked there until he died, lived at that house with his family.